My name is Operative Cashinreth, Vindicare Temple, designation Null 7 Void. I have been a precision instrument of the Officio Assassinorum for 26 years. In that time I have taken 411 sanctioned kills at ranges between 800 meters and 3.2 kilometers. My miss rate across 26 years is was zero. I want to be precise about the tense because precision is what the Vindicare Temple produces and precision is what I owe this tribunal. My miss rate was 0. On the 412th engagement, on a hive world called Varanthos Secundus, at a range of 1.4 kilometers, with a clean line of sight, optimal atmospheric conditions, and a target acquisition that my Exitus rifle's targeting cogitator rated at 97.3% probability of fatal hit, I missed. I did not miss because of equipment failure. I did not miss because of environmental interference. I did not miss because the target moved. I missed because I chose to. I am going to tell you who was in the crosshair. I am going to tell you what I saw that no targeting calculation accounts for. And I am going to tell you the thing the Vindicare Temple trains out of its operatives from the moment of selection, the thing I had not experienced in 26 years, that came back at the worst possible moment and saved a man who was supposed to die. Its name is hesitation, and it changed everything. A Vindicare assassin is not simply a trained marksman. The confusion is understandable, but it misses the scale of the difference. A trained marksman controls his breathing, manages his heart rate, learns to hold a position and compensate for environmental variables. A Vindicare assassin is rebuilt. The biofeedback implants regulate heartbeat to a baseline of 31 beats per minute during target acquisition, below the threshold at which most cardiac monitoring equipment registers a living person. The respiratory system is decoupled from the voluntary nervous system during a shot sequence, eliminating the micro-tremor that breathing introduces. The optical implants allow target acquisition at 3 kilometers in full darkness. The targeting cogitator processes 14 atmospheric variables simultaneously and delivers a firing solution accurate to within 2 millimeters at maximum range. The temple takes 12 years to produce an operative of my classification. 12 years of progressive conditioning, augmentation, and the systematic removal of every variable the human animal introduces into a precision kill. Emotional response, hesitation, the involuntary flinch before terminal action. All of it trained, conditioned, and surgically removed. I was, by every metric the temple uses, a perfect instrument. I had been on the rooftop across from the planetary governor's residential spire for 11 days. 11 days in position, eating nothing, moving nothing, my heartbeat at 31 beats per minute. The crosshair on the same window every morning when the target appeared for his routine sweep. 11 days of absolute readiness. And then on day 11, the target appeared at the window, and he was not alone. The child was approximately 7 years old. I want to give you the precise figure, but the targeting cogitator does not record the ages of non-target individuals in the acquisition field. 7 is my estimate based on physical development markers visible through the scope at 1.4 kilometers. The planetary governor, my target, was conducting his routine morning security sweep of the window, as he had done every morning for 11 days. His son had apparently decided, on this particular morning, to accompany him. The child was standing at the governor's left side, one hand holding the governor's hand, the other pressed flat against the glass, looking out at the city below with the specific expression of a child who has never seen the view from this height before and is discovering it for the first time. The targeting cogitator flagged the presence of a non-target individual and noted that a standard exodus round at the calculated trajectory would not endanger the child, positioned as he was. The shot solution remained valid, the probability rating held at 94.1%, adjusted for the new positioning. The cogitator was correct in all its calculations. What the cogitator does not have a calculation for is this: the governor looked down at his son. His son looked up at him. And the governor smiled. Not the smile of a planetary governor performing civic function. The smile of a man who is surprised, in the middle of a routine moment, by how much he loves the specific person standing beside him. I had the shot. The trigger pressure was already at the first stage of engagement, 40% of the full trigger pull required. In 11 years of service, at that trigger pressure, the shot has never not gone. It went wide, 31 centimeters. The child remained alive. The governor dropped behind his desk. And I was already moving. The shot went wide by 31 centimeters. I know the exact figure because the targeting cogitator logged the deviation before my voluntary nervous system had fully registered that I had made it. 31 centimeters, the distance between what the temple built me to do and what I chose to do instead. The target dropped behind his desk at the sound of the shot passing. He was alive, his son was alive, and I was already moving, because in approximately 90 seconds the security response would reach my position, and a Vindicare assassin who has missed his target and cannot explain why has no good options. 90 seconds is enough time to do a great many things if you have been trained to operate in 90-second windows your entire career. I cleared the rooftop in 14 seconds, the Exodus rifle broken down and stowed in the maintenance bag I had positioned at the access hatch on day 1 of the operation. The maintenance corridor on the level below the rooftop, accessed through a service panel I had identified and prepared on day 2. The service elevator, already held at the sublevel by the magnetic override I had installed on day 3. Street level in 41 seconds from the shot. The crowd on the commercial boulevard outside the Spire's service entrance is dense at that hour. I had timed the shot for maximum crowd density specifically as part of the standard exfiltration planning into the crowd. Moving at civilian pace, the specific practiced art of a person who is not running even though every instinct says run. The security response would be looking for someone moving fast. I moved slow. I counted. 4 minutes and 12 seconds from the shot to the extraction vehicle. The target was alive. His son was alive. The cogitator in my eye was still logging the mission as incomplete, cycling through alternative target acquisition scenarios with the specific mechanical persistence of a system that does not understand why it has not been given what it was asked for. I turned off the cogitator's active display. The extraction vehicle drove. The temple logistics operative did not ask about the mission status. Then, after 4 minutes and 40 seconds, he said, "The target is alive." It was not a question. I confirmed it. He drove for 30 seconds in silence. Then, "The Inquisitor is going to want an explanation." I told him I had one. What I did not tell him was that the explanation was also a confession. Note: the extraction vehicle was a laundry transport, as per the operational protocol. The driver was a temple logistics operative who had been waiting in the same parking bay for 11 days without question. I got in. He did not ask about the mission status. In the temple, you do not ask. We drove for 4 minutes and 40 seconds before he said anything. What he said was, "The target is alive." It was not a question. I confirmed it. He drove for another 30 seconds in silence. Then he said, "The Inquisitor is going to want an explanation." I told him I had one. What I did not tell him was that the explanation was also a confession, and that the confession was the only true thing I had said in 11 years of service. The Inquisitor was a woman named Vethoranus. She was not what I expected, not the theatrical authority figure the Officio Assassinorum's briefing protocols describe. She was precise. She sat across from me in the temple debrief chamber and she said, "Tell me exactly what happened." I told her everything, not because I was required to. I could have constructed a mechanical explanation that would have survived standard analysis. Equipment variance, atmospheric anomaly. I had reviewed 3 such explanations in the 26 minutes between the extraction vehicle and the debrief chamber, and all 3 would have been accepted. I told her the truth because the miss was honest and it seemed wrong to cover an honest act with a dishonest explanation. I told her about the 11 days. The routine, the targeting solution, the cogitator's rating, the child at the window, the governor's smile, the 31 centimeter deviation. I told her what the cogitator does not have a calculation for. She listened to all of it without interruption, the specific quality of attention of someone who is building a picture rather than confirming a conclusion. I had seen that quality of attention before, in the Inquisitor who had handled Saravel's case. I recognized it as something that might, possibly, go in a direction other than the obvious one. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she told me about the fabricated intelligence, the retroactively withdrawn sanction. The man who should not have been targeted. She looked at me for a long time. Then she said, I need you to tell me how you knew. I told her I did not know. I told her I simply saw. She said, there is a difference between those two things. I have been thinking about what that difference is ever since. She was quiet for a long time after I finished. Then she said, Operative Reth, in 22 years of handling Assassinorum assets I have never once received a true account of a missed shot. Every previous explanation was mechanical, equipment failure, environmental interference, target movement. You are the first operative to tell me that the reason for the miss was that the target was a person and you saw it. She paused again. Then she said, the planetary governor has been under investigation for suspected tithe irregularities. The intelligence that generated the sanction order was compiled by a political rival and has since been found to contain significant fabrications. The sanction has been retroactively withdrawn. You missed a shot you should have taken on a man who should not have been targeted. She looked at me for a long time. Then she said, I am going to need you to tell me how you knew. 26 years. 411 shots. 0 misses. That is the record the temple has on file for Operative Cash and Wrath, designation 07 void. It is accurate for the first 411 shots. The 412th sits differently in the record now, logged as a miss, cause under investigation, operative under review pending inquisitorial assessment. What the file does not contain and cannot contain, because the temple does not have a category for it, is what the 412th shot revealed about the 411 that preceded it. I have been a perfect instrument for 26 years. I have hit every target the temple assigned to me with the precision the temple built me to deliver. I have done this without hesitation and without residue, the specific professional quality of a man who executes without carrying. I thought the lack of residue was evidence of successful conditioning. I understand now that it was evidence of something else. The 411 shots I took before Varanthos Secundus were taken at targets. The man in the scope on Varanthos Secundus was a person. The difference was not in what the targeting cogitator showed me, it was in what I chose to see. The temple trained out of me every human variable that could affect a shot. They got most of them. What they did not get was the capacity to recognize a person as one. 26 years, 411 successful kills. And the one that mattered most, the one that revealed what I actually was underneath the instrument, was the one that went 31 centimeters wide. I have been trying to decide whether that is a malfunction or a feature. I think it is the most important thing the temple ever left in me by accident. Note, the temple trained out of me every human variable that could affect a shot. They got most of them. They got the fear and the hesitation and the flinch. What they did not get, what I discover had been operating below the threshold of everything they measured for 26 years, was the capacity to see. Not through a scope, not through a targeting cogitator. To see a person and recognize them as one. They trained me to aim at targets. They could not train me to stop seeing people. And on Varanthos Secundus, in the 1.4 seconds between the governor's smile and my trigger finger completing its pull, something in me looked through the scope and said, not this one. Not today. I have been trying to decide whether that something is a malfunction or a feature. I think it is the most important thing the temple ever left in me by accident. And I think it is the reason I am still worth deploying. The Inquisitor cleared my record. The official file notes equipment variance as the cause of the miss on Varanthos Secundus. This is not accurate. I did not ask her to falsify it. She offered and I accepted, because the accurate record would have ended my deployment capability, and I have since concluded that my deployment capability is worth preserving, not for the temple. For what the temple left in me by accident. I have taken 43 shots since Varanthos Secundus. All 43 were sanctioned, accurate, and necessary. The Inquisitor's assessment team reviews every target brief before I receive it now, a protocol she established specifically for my operations. 43 people who were exactly what the intelligence said they were. 43 times, I looked through the scope, I saw what was there, and I made the correct call. I want to be clear about this because I think the tribunal may have formed an impression from this testimony that I have become something soft, something compromised by the capacity that returned on that rooftop. I have not. I am Operative Cash and Wrath. I am the most accurate long-range precision asset in the Officio Assassinorum's current active roster. The temple's records confirm this. The 43 shots since Varanthos Secundus confirmed this. What the shots confirm, and what the temple's records do not contain, is the reason each of those 43 was the right call. I looked through the scope, I saw what was there. And in each of those 43 cases, unlike one specific morning on a hive world at 1.4 kilometers, what I saw was exactly what should not continue to exist. The targeting cogitator does not have a variable for that. I do not need it to. I have something the temple spent 12 years trying to remove and for 111 shots failing to finish off. I have the capacity to see a person and know them for one. And in the 43rd year of my service, finally, completely, without reservation, I am grateful it survived. Because the instrument that cannot tell a person from a target is not a precision weapon. It is just a gun. And I am something considerably more specific than that. 44 engagements, 43 kills, 1 miss. The miss was the most important shot I ever took. And if you are the kind of person who understands why, then you already know what I am. And you know I am still worth deploying. 411 shots, 1 miss. The miss was the most important thing I ever did. If that landed somewhere in you, if you understood why the 31 centimeter deviation mattered more than the 411, subscribe. Because every week someone sits in that chair and says something the Imperium was not built to hear. And in the comments, tell me what you saw in the scope, not the target, the person, because I have been asking that question since I wrote this story. What is the difference between a weapon that misses and a weapon that chooses? Give me your answer.